I'm not Australian, I'm Scottish. It's not bad. You only missed it by 11,000 miles. You literally couldn't have been any further away on the planet without being wrong. So I was thinking of all the people that you've had on the show so far, your Ron Ruths and Mike Walters. I'm the equivalent of a Brewers Tampa Bay World Series right here. We're not going to get great ratings, I'm just saying.
Scratch it. Freeze frame. You were there scratching your neck like this.
Yeah. Well, you were doing that for about 2 minutes.
I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Citronic range, Citronic Thames and Citronic Hawaii.
Yeah.
DJs.
Exactly. And
where did you just take us? The Egg McMuffins can trip you up.
Say, welcome to episode 8. Wait, where's the Big Daddy was in episode 8? What the? Say donkey.
Oh, Mitch Taylor, bless him.
Welcome to episode 9 of DJ Center Stage TV. Alan Robb is a wedding DJ MC and trivia host with over 25 years in the industry on 2 continents. Originally from Scotland, not Australia. In 2002, he met a good Midwestern girl online, and a year later sold his UK DJ business and relocated to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In 2007, after 3 years working as possibly the worst newspaper ad salesman in history. Oh, all right. He launched Accent Events, specializing in weddings. Now, Alan, or the Scottish DJ, as he's known by many, is also an affiliate with DJ Trivia in Metro Milwaukee, as well as past board member for the Midwest DJs Live show held annually since 2009. He recently married second wife, Kim, and lives in Milwaukee with a dog and 2 rabbits. 2 rabbits. One of whom is named after Grandmaster Flash. That is awesome. That is great. Alan, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We were talking a little bit before we started this interview, and just about music programming, mixing, how that evolved, and what you do as a DJ and entertainer. So could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I think that's evolved over the 25 years I've been doing this. Well, I mean, strictly speaking, I've been DJing for 30 years, but that first year and a half when I was at college, I'm not entirely sure it counts because, you're DJing for beer and entertaining a bunch of people in the student union. And frankly, I don't think it's not really the hardest job in the world. But when I started getting paid for DJing back in 1991, we were using these double deck belt drive turntables with a built-in amplifier. They're made by Citronic usually. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're basically come in an enormous coffin, and the rubber bands on them were very fickle. You didn't dare touch the pitch controls because you might not get it back, and everybody's going to be in chipmunk mode for the rest of the night. So it was really about creative programming at that point, getting from track A to track B without necessarily beat matching. And I know there's a lot of people, I used to DJ on belt drive, blah, blah. Yeah, but it was one of those things where you just didn't even try it with the equipment that we had. So over time, you developed ways of getting from track A to track B. And I think that's programming knowledge is probably what's at the back of it all. And it's only in the last 10 years that I've actually learned to DJ properly with, beat mixing and beat matching and doing better blends and all of the rest of it. So I think that original experience of getting from track A to track B without necessarily being able to do it by tempo is probably at the back of a lot of what I do.
Said you learned recently how to do that. Did somebody show you how to, or did you just practice a lot? How did that happen?
Well, yeah, I think YouTube was enormous. I think YouTube was really I'm a very visual learner, like a lot of people are, and YouTube videos. When I first launched back in 2007, I was a big YouTube guy. Midwest DJs Live used to be called YouTube DJs Live back in the day because it was all those of us who watched and made videos and blah, blah, blah. YouTube understandably had a little bit of a problem with us calling it YouTube DJs Live, which is why it changed its name. But I used to absolutely devour videos from, guys like Jonathan Lewis at Skins and Brian Red. Brian Red made a lot of videos that I used to watch, and then obviously there were a ton of videos of how-to from people, and and it was really a self-taught kind of thing, and since then, I've gotten very heavily involved with, buying a lot of the digital DJ tips. Phil Morse in the UK has done some fantastic videos, just really, really impressive and easy to understand, and so a lot of it, my passion for DJing has really been turned around, I think, a little bit in the last 10 years because of YouTube. Yeah, Brian had kind of taken on from what Jonathan started doing in the UK, and kind of, as much as anything, bring up this side of the pond, what have you. Jonathan is got a passion for teaching. There's no doubt about that, and it's very infectious. And some of it is things that you think you knew, and some of it is things that you didn't know, and I think part of it is I've been a DJ for 15 years, and you got to basically be man enough to say, or I can still learn. There's things I can still learn here. I don't know it all yet. I know a ton, but I don't know it all. And you never do. You never stop.
Right. And yeah, it's interesting because I recently changed from, I was using a program called Mixmeister Fusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when I first started off, and that was so it was all laptop based for everything that I was doing. I didn't even have a controller or anything, so it was mainly that, and so I was creating my mixes that way, and I had an external sound card that I was using to preview the track that comes afterwards, and so doing it that way, and I became, I think, very good at doing that. But when it came time to see just how much easier it is to actually use a controller properly, so I invested in that and got one last April. So I had to relearn everything that I do as a DJ and just get out of my comfort zone and just make my life easier, because that's what would happen by using a new controller where I'm not just going off of a laptop. And so we are back with Al and Rob. We had a little technical difficulties, but now we're back, and we were talking about beat mixing a little bit, music programming, and also about Mixmeister Fusion. So Alan, you were talking a little bit about using Mixmeister Fusion for dinner, I believe. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I still use it for dinner mixes. I still use it for doing like cocktail mixes. I still, I'll occasionally make pre-made mixes. If there's two tracks I know that I always like to do back to back, and maybe it's a super tricky transition, and you really have to nail it every time, or it turns into a train wreck.
Yeah.
I have no problem in doing a couple of little two-trackers, and at the points where you need them, you put that in, it's going to mix perfectly every time. I have zero problem doing that, and frankly, all of the flap doodle that various DJs get themselves into about real DJing and all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, are people dancing? Yeah, shut up.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, without a doubt. Mixmaster is a great program, and if I found a way that I could map it out with my controller, then I would have still used Mixmeister, without a doubt. I really liked it, and I was comfortable with it. So
I bought one of those little Mixmeister controllers back in the day. When Guitar Center was selling them off for $50. I bought it, and I don't think I ever used it. I may still have it. It might even still be downstairs. I don't know. But now it's a case of if I create something, I'm creating an MP3, which I'm then dragging into Serato, and I've got my my regular tracks, and then I've got one or two that are pre-made, pre-mixed, and I'll do that every time for dinner music. So I'll create the dinner music ahead of time, and then create that as an MP3 and drag that into Serato. But my Mixmeister still comes with me as it's my third backup. I've got my Serato on one laptop, and I've got my Serato on another laptop, and I've got Mixmeister on that other laptop as well. So if there's a problem with Serato, we can finish the rest of the night on Mixmeister.
Yeah, that's my backup, the Mixmeister laptop as well for that. So now I'm using Virtual DJ, and so I had to learn and navigate around that. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but I mean, there is a learning curve too with that program.
Sure.
So I was learning a new software. I was learning a new controller at the same time. So I spent a good deal of time trying to master as much as I could, going online, checking out the videos, and the tutorials were awesome. So I learned tons from that. So now I'm starting to feel comfortable where I'm feeling, okay, I could do this effectively and efficiently when I'm performing. But yeah, there's definitely a learning curve for sure. I'm always finding and discovering new things about it. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, and that's, I guess, one of the things that still keeps it fun is that we are still learning new things.
Yeah.
And, you still have to have the ideas for the songs that you're going to put together. You still have to have the ideas for what works with what. You still have to have the ear that this sounds a bit like this. Let's see if I can make that work. There's no software in the world will identify, hey, here's all the songs you're going to need tonight.
That's right. And I think it's crafting and setting up ahead of time and being able to come up with whatever you establish it as, crates or just folders with what I do is I'll put things by decade in folders, basically, 60s, 70s, 80s, but you could take it even a step further and do it all songs that are just dance music in one. And then recently what I did is I'm taking all the dance music and putting that, like my top dance songs going back to the 50s all the way up to today, and I just put them in one folder. And so now this way, when I'm looking at what track to mix into, I have them all by BPMs, and I could just scan through it, and it makes it so much easier. So you're not there the last 30 seconds going, oh my God, what am I going to mix into?
Right. Yeah, and I think technology has definitely made me better at doing what we do.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. One of them is exactly that. One of them is that the organization of your music library is considerably easier than it used to be.
Sure.
Now, with Serato, now they've got a system whereby you can search within searches. So, for instance, if you want to have all the tracks that are a particular BPM or a particular BPM range, and then furthermore organize those all by key, because I've started to really get into a lot of key mixing as well.
Yep.
So to be able to do searches within searches or sorts within sorts is super easy. And having the ability to be able to see what you've already played is super easy as well. You used to have to write it down like I was Amish, for goodness sake. But now, you click a button and it shows you what you've played already,
That's a good point, because there are moments, and if I have an assistant with me for the evening working a wedding with me, there were times before where I had to go back and say, hey, did I play that song an hour ago? And he's like, no, you didn't play that. I'm like, thank God. Okay, well, good.
And especially if you're doing multiple events in a weekend. I mean, I try to,
yes.
I've tried to kind of limit it now to, to be in one a weekend, but sometimes that's just not possible. And and if you're doing a Friday night and a Saturday night, it's hard sometimes to remember, did I play this last night or did I play this 3 hours ago?
Yes. And so I think, but you're right. The software and the technology definitely does make it easier now for you. If you're going from one song to the next, I know there's a lot of DJs that will stick to a set of 3 of the same style of music. Or do you do that, or are you usually just finding a great song that has the same BPMs?
A little bit. Again, there's a little bit of an evolution. I used to, back in the 90s when I was playing back in Scotland, I very much stuck to the 3 to 4 tracks per genre. That was really one of the things that I pretty much always did. We're going 3 rock tracks. Okay, we'll go 3 pop tracks. Okay, we'll go 3 disco tracks. Okay, we'll go 3 60s tracks. It was literally 3 or 4 all the way down the line.
Yeah.
And that has evolved a little bit because of the fact that now I don't think the attention span's there to dance to the same style of music for 4 tracks. I think people are getting much more, hey, okay, we've heard this, let's move along. And so, and so my style now is a lot more open format. It's a lot more dependent on the vibe of a particular 2 or 3 songs rather than necessarily the actual genres. Like, for instance, play something like, Hey Ya, Happy, and Contours, Do You Love Me? Well, there's 3 very, very different genres.
Yeah.
But the feel, the vibe is very similar.
Sure.
There's a soul, there's a Motown feel to all of them, even though they're not really the same style. So I'm more likely to do that, the kind of open format, and it's much more likely now that I'm going to go to 2-song sets and then go off on something else rather than 3-song sets.
Oh, that's interesting.
A lot more twos and twos and twos, and a lot more jumping all over the place. Toto Africa next to Biggie Hypnotize, that kind of thing. Things that just in a million years you wouldn't think work, but work either because of the vibe or because of the key or because of just the general tempo that they are at. And jumping about back and forward, not really being overly worried about, okay, we've pleased the hip hop people, now we have to please the pop people. Well, a lot of these are very multi-generational. I try and find songs, especially early in the night, that are very multi-generational. You get a song like Do You Love Me, which was obviously, it was a hit in the 60s, but it was in Dirty Dancing. And so, the recent generations are more likely to know it from Dirty Dancing than from having heard it in the 60s. And then you get a song like, Uptown Funk, which pretty much is, it's a Morris Day and the Time song, effectively. I mean, it really got that vibe to it.
Yeah.
So, you're getting that feel, Happy in a lot of ways is, I've seen people doing kind of Northern soul dancing to Happy. And it's got that real kind of clap, clap Motown thing going. So there's a lot of those tracks are very multi-generational. Walk the Moon, Shut Up and Dance is pretty much U2. It's pretty much Where the Streets Have No Name. So, if you've got, so you've got those kinds of sort of sonic harkening back to a different time that feels very familiar to multi-generations,
Right.
They might not have been able to put their finger on why they're dancing to it, but they know, hey, this is something like the things I used to like.
From the millennials that we're performing in front of, do you think that it's changing a little bit as far as the style of mixing into another song? Because I know a lot of DJs at weddings will wait until close to the end of the song before they do that. Do you think there's a shift where that's changing now?
I do. I mean, I do a lot more, and I never used to do this. I used to be very much, you're playing a 3.5-minute song and you're not even thinking of coming out until 30 seconds from the end.
Yeah.
That's one of the things with Serato that I've really started to do in the last 3 or 4 years is prepare the songs so that I know multiple points that I can come out. So there's lots of cue points in a song. You might be thinking, yeah, this one's not really, it's not got the energy I really want. I'm going to come out after the first chorus rather than I'm going to take it to the end. But if they're losing their mind and they're singing along to every chorus, well, let's keep that going. Let's go back to the cue points that are keeping them happy. And it's a lot more. I'm doing a lot more chopping and changing than I ever used to do. In part because I think their expectations are that you're going to be more like the clubs and the bars that they go to that do a lot of mixing. I pretty much devour anything Mike Walter does. I think that his approach and his philosophy to doing things is very much the way that I feel. There's a lot of things that are very different to how I do it, which is cool because it's not about completely aping somebody. There's things he does that I don't do, and there's things that I'm sure I do that he doesn't do.
Sure.
But the whole, his philosophy, the keys I thought were fantastic. I bought the full 4-hour one that he did last year where he brought out, an entire night and kind of did annotations and, descriptions of why he did the various things he did, which was super handy because the way that you do weddings in the Midwest is very different from the way that you do weddings on the East Coast.
Sure. Hugely
different. We don't have dancing in between courses. And I say we don't. I'm sure somebody in the Midwest is going to go, well, I do that all the time. Yeah, sure, whatever. But the majority of people don't do that here. We have very set dancing times. You've got cocktails, you've got dinner music, we've got dancing after dinner, and it's a 4-hour chunk. I mean, we're typically, cocktails 6 till 7, dinner 7 till 8:30, 8:30 to midnight is dancing. That's very typical here.
That's interesting.
We pretty much go to midnight every single week.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's not too many. We start at 6 and we're done by 10. And you know, and the thing is that when I've done a couple of the I guess what you call, you know, East Coast style weddings or New York style weddings or whatever, where we've done dancing in between. And when I've done them, they have worked because, you know, people are open to, you know, to great music throughout the night. It's just a question of re-educating people as to what they're not used to hear.
Yeah.
So, you know, but this notion, and I feel very strongly about this notion that there's one true way of doing this blows my mind.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and this notion that, you know, real DJs do X or real DJs do Y. You know, I still remember playing with 2 tape players back in the 90s. I still remember having, you know, an entire night where I had one deck that was working because the other one had gone, and I was going back and forward between a deck and a tape player, and I was having to run into another room because there was no way of me physically listening to the tape. So I had to go in another room and listen to the tape on a boombox, get it cued to the right point, come back, stick the tape in. So this notion that there's one way of doing this, and if you don't, you know, beat mix on turntables, then you're not a real DJ. I have no time for that.
Yeah, you do see those in a bunch of different groups that are out there, and yeah, it's just, you know, people are having a good time, as you said. It's like, shut up, you know.
Right.
You have success on the dance floor. But I was bringing up Mike Walter, his Keys DVD, because I was thinking about the cue points that you're mentioning, and that was something that part alone that he talked about, setting your cue points. I knew about the concept of doing it, but then when he pointed out a good way of doing that and how he does it, it helped me a lot. And I started to go through my library and set it up. So when I come back now to doing events, it's so much easier that I know, okay, this is a good place to mix out of.
Right. And I'll have various different ones. Some songs, I've got multiple. I'll have like maybe a 4-bar loop at the break because I might want to come out there. And other times I'm pretty much letting it go to the end, just depending on the energy levels, you know, and that preparation, you know, it's something I wish I'd done years ago. It's something I wish I'd started doing, but it's, you know, better late than never.
Yeah, and it's just like anything else. I mean, it takes time. You got to devote a lot of time to that, and there's many aspects of your business and DJing and emceeing that you have to devote time to, and you have to kind of just select what takes precedent over the other thing. And it was one of the things I was putting off for a while, but I'm glad I did. You know,
right. You know, and I used to go by the rationale of he who dies with the most MP3s wins. And what you've got to come to realize is that, you know, you have 100,000 tracks, you know, there's 92,000 of them you're never going to play.
Right.
You know, ever. You know, not even just if you get requested. You wouldn't play it even if you got requests for it because it's just not going to work.
Right.
And this notion that we have to have, you know, because we only started out with a box with 30 records in it, when you've got pretty much the entire history of recorded music at your fingertips, it gets very tempting that I want it all. And then you come to realize that you've just made your life harder, not easier.
Let me talk a little bit, shift gears here, and ask you just about some of the different groups that you've been a part of, the Ultimate DJ Playlist Share. That's another one that I put up called Wedding DJ Playlist Share. And that's specifically geared towards, obviously, weddings. And more than that, it's not just a list of your music, but the idea and concept of it is whoever wants to become a member and join this particular group has to contribute. Right.
And that's a big one. I like that.
Yeah, and in order to become a member of the group. So that way you're having a lot of content shared with different perspectives of what works well. But it's not just the playlist either. What I ask people to do is basically go back and take us through from start to finish what happened during the day. So you could tell me what works with when you created a wow moment, or just these particular songs were working well. The energy was so high. This one crashed and burned and you didn't expect it. How you set up a moment using a song or otherwise in between the special dances with it. So it's kind of a walkthrough of a whole wedding, but with the list in mind too as well as a foundation of that.
You know, and as far as playlist groups on Facebook go, that for me is always going to be way more of a group that I'm going to want to contribute to, rather than the ones where, and I'm getting to the point where there's 2 or 3 of them. I've just had enough, because every week there's another post that says, DJ in a insert event name here tonight. I need a playlist. It's like, really, dude? You know, that kind of lack of preparation, that kind of laziness is just beginning to get annoying. And I think one of the things I love about the wedding group is that it's not just about, it's kind of like when a teacher says, show your work. It's not enough that you came to the right answer. You could have fluked the right answer, but it's nice that you get some sort of way of explaining what worked, what didn't, what your thought process was behind it. And that was kind of one of the things I loved about that Mike Walter 4-hour video, was that, you know, he's explaining what his thought process is. And a lot of the times you're thinking, yeah, that's the way I think. And then occasionally you're thinking, wow, I never really considered it that way. And that's what I get from the playlist group. You know, sometimes you get people's opinion, and it's wildly different from yours, and it puts a couple of ideas in your head.
I was looking in the Wedding DJ playlist share, and here's just a walkthrough of that. We could take a look, and maybe you could just describe a little bit about this particular event.
Oh, that was it was an older couple. Typically, I tend to get a lot of weddings which are not early 20-somethings. I don't get an awful lot of the mommy and daddy are paying for it, and basically they are deciding on all the music that's going to get played. And, you know, because typically I'm a kind of a level of you know, payment in the market that is probably a little higher than the first timers. Yeah. So I tend to get a lot of older couples, like late 20s, early 30s. And in this particular occasion, it was a couple in their late 40s. Mm-hmm. And the groom was American, and the bride was Puerto Rican. Actually, Puerto Rican from Puerto Rico, came over here, and you know, not just Puerto Rican heritage. Actually, born in Puerto Rico, and you know, lived there for a lot of years before she came over here. So the wedding itself had a real big 50-50 split right down the middle of you know, Norwegian Caucasians and Puerto Ricans. You know, so it was a little bit of a challenge in that regard. I'll be honest, it's not, you know, Latin music is not my strongest suit. Yep. But because I knew it was coming, you know, I did a lot of research, and I listened to a ton of songs, and I didn't necessarily go with the ones that I had been told, oh, this always works. You know, some of them, you know, I know I've played before, and I've had great response to, you know, the Danza Kaduros of this world. You know, that's been working for years, and it's, you know, it's loved by sort of the those who love Latin music and those who don't know anything about Latin music and just love that particular track. So, you know, there's tracks like that I've played over the years. But I also, one of the other things that's really big for me at weddings is requests. I make sure that not only do I get the bride and groom's songs that they love and highlight the ones that are really important to them, but also during dinner, I walk around the tables. I'm their ambassador. I'm the host of the biggest party that they'll probably ever throw. And while I've done enough weddings and I've done enough events that I can read a crowd, at the end of the day, if I ask people, hey, what do you love to dance to? They'll tell me. Yeah. You know, if I open the microphone and say, hey, everybody, I'm taking requests, most of them won't come up because they're intimidated. They've been to weddings where the DJ was a dick and didn't say, you know, and gave them a hard time for asking for requests. Yeah. Or they come up 10 minutes before the end and ask for something that is just not going to work. And, right. You know, unless you're asking for one of the tracks I have lined up in the last 10 minutes, you're not getting it. You know? Right. So I walk around the tables and you know, so they gave me some great requests, and I go back, and the tracks I don't know I'm listening to before I put them into the preparation folder for possibly playing later. And then a lot of it came down to pure tempo. You know, the ones, you know, the reggaeton tracks are going with the reggaeton tracks as much as I can, and the salsa ones are going with the salsa ones as much as I can. Yep. And then trying to find ones that work where you've got the crossover, you know, right. The Pitbulls of this world. Sure. You know, where, you know, you can go real easily from Latin through Pitbull to house. that kind of thing. The other thing I will say though, Jim, is that this was a really challenging one, both from the fact that they had things in the night which made it a lot harder than it had to be. They had things where, oh, we're going to have a group photo, and they went outside to take a group shot, and they were outside for half an hour.
Oh.
You know, those kinds of things, you know, where, you know, you've asked the photographer really politely, let me know when you're taking them out so I won't play any of the bride and groom songs. And then the next thing, you know, you think, well, have they gone? Have they left? You know, and you know, and with the start of that night, I needed them to be back in the room before I could play their first song.
Sure.
And they weren't coming back. They were away for half an hour, and people were starting to get antsy. I could start to see the anxiety building. I could start to see people saying, when are we getting this going? And so that was why I don't know if you saw it when you looked at the list there. We've got about 4 or 5 songs before I actually did their first dance because people wanted to dance. So it was a place for me to lose some of the, maybe some of the kids' requests. I think Let It Go was one of the ones that was in there, and maybe it was, you know, I Like to Move It is one that I play a lot, especially the version that I play, because it's got that connotation to Madagascar, which kids all know. Plus, it's just, you know, it's a track that I've always loved. I think it's a track that I think works really well, and it's got that great Latin vibe, and you know, so things like that was a challenge because it's like, well, my head is telling me you don't start until the bride and groom have danced.
Yes.
But my eyes are telling me that people are getting antsy and they want to dance.
That was your curveball. And that happens. There's always going to be curveballs. But
oh, absolutely.
Did the photographer just not even say anything about taking them away? Or did he say, yes, I'm taking them away? Or she say, we're taking the bride and groom away for 5 minutes? And then
that was exactly it. They said they were going for 5 and they were gone for like 35, 40 minutes. I mean, they literally were, because it was a beautiful June evening. It had been scary hot all day.
Yeah.
So this was the first chance that it actually cooled down.
Okay.
So, you know, and it's a venue that has a big atrium. It's got a sort of, you know, it's got quite nice indoor for a wedding, but also the surrounding area. It's quite urban, so they probably had to go and try and find something that was a little bit more photogenic.
Right.
But like I said, it was 35 minutes easily. That you've even been slightly longer. It felt like a very, very long time, you know. So
sure, that's a challenge. But and to be fair to the photographers too, you never know. Sometimes they may say, okay, you know, let's try to get these pictures done in 5 minutes, or may not say anything at all, thinking that's going to be the case. And then the bride or groom are just like, no, hey guys.
You know, and I'm not in any way throwing photographers under the bus.
No,
you know, I married a wedding photographer, so that kind of that's kind of influenced how I think about it. But
right,
you know, it's one of the things which I don't think when they're getting in the moment, they're not necessarily thinking, hey, what does the DJ need? What does the venue need?
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to get their thing, and because of that, you know, time slips away.
Well, it sounds like you did the right thing by, you know, bringing up the entertainment and getting people to get a chance to get out there and dance and keep it flowing well.
Well, it was, I would be lying if I said that every synapse in my body wasn't screaming, you can't do this, the bride and groom aren't back yet.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where you figure, well, I'm gonna do what feels right. I've been doing this long enough, you know, 1,400 weddings in at this point. I've been doing it long enough that you kind of have a general sense of what's going to work and what's not going to work. Mm-hmm. If they, you know, because if they hadn't come back at that point, hey, we'd just kept going. But as it was, you know, and the irony was they came back right at the point where I was playing Pitbull, Don't Stop the Party, and one of the techs or one of the staff for the hotel wanted to plug in the slideshow projector, so unplugged my main power, just like, so I said, hey, I need that one, plugged it in, and of course, you know, the laptop kept going because it's got the battery backup, but my Denon controller shut down, the speakers shut down, you know, the lighting, you know, because the lighting was all on, it was all on Show Express, that shut down, so it's like,
and you got one of these, you got one of the
right, yeah.
DJs.
Exactly. And you know, and the thing is because the laptop's still going, you're not immediately certain as to what it is that's happened. But the irony of it stopping when in the middle of Pitbull saying "Don't stop the party" made people think that it was deliberate. So, you know,
Best time for it to happen if it were going to happen.
oh, if it's going to happen, it happened. You know, when it makes it look like, oh yeah, I meant that. You know, so.
All right. So the other thing I wanted to ask you was your approach to starting off a dance set. Now, there's a lot of DJs out there or MCs who will think that, oh, let's start with a slow song, open up the dancing with a slow song, and then go into something more upbeat, up-tempo, and also ending the celebration too. So let's say you have a last dance for a couple. Maybe it's 15 minutes before where they have their last slow song of the evening or not. What is it? What is your approach to that as far as bringing out a close to the evening, and how do you build from that?
I want to finish on a high. Yeah. I want there to be some sort of like finale. I want it to be like ideally I want the bride and groom carried shoulder high from the building. That's, you know, that's my kind of feeling on it, is that I want it to be something that they look at you and you're not necessarily, I mean, occasionally you do still get the one more song thing, but I want it to be the case that after the you know, the final thing that happens, people are like, well, how could you top that? You can't, you know, you couldn't top that. You can't get any better than that. And that way then, you know, I just hate those events that kind of peter out. And I know a lot of DJs will do I play their first song as the last song, so it's a nice kind of cyclical thing that we're bringing them back, and sure. You know, and I see the advantage of that. Mm-hmm. I just prefer to do it in a way where we've got some sort of sing along. The one I've been going to a lot in the last couple of years is Bohemian Rhapsody. You've got your Don't Stop Believins and your Piano Mans and your Friends in Low Places and all these kind of ones. You've got songs which have a kind of climax. Back in Scotland, we used to play New York a lot, and also there's a track called Loch Lomond by a band called Runrig, who, you know, it's the whole, you know, you take the high road and I'll take the low road song, but it's like a Celtic rock version. Okay. And you do a wedding in Scotland, that one's coming out at the end. But here, there's a few that I've been tending to veer towards, but I just love the energy of Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, especially, you know, you've got the sing-along part, then you've got the whole Wayne's World part, and then you've got a sort of come down after the high, you know, and a way of being able to talk over the last 30 seconds and say your goodbyes so that when you're done, and then, you know, you got a bong, you got the big kind of gong at the end of it. I mean, you know, so for me, I love a big finale. I love an ending which says, how could you possibly top that? Right. You know? Yeah. You know, it's nice to have one kind of queued up, like I have another track just in case. And I'll typically finish maybe 4 or 5 minutes before the allotted time, just in case we get the one more song thing, because then, you know, I'm not veering into staff time. You know, it's not the end of the world if you go into 5 past midnight, but yeah, since ours go to midnight, you know, ours are not finishing at 10. 5 past 10 doesn't sound as bad as 5 past midnight. Yeah. So, you know, right. So if we're going to midnight, I kind of don't want to make myself unpopular. A lot of the referrals I get are from venues. Right. You know, a ton of referrals I get from venues, and they're referring me because I play with their rules. You know, yeah. I'm not doing hey, my guests are having a great time, screw you lot, I'm doing what I want. Right. No, that's a good point. You got to have good relationships with the venues who are referring you. So going back to starting off the dancing, and your approach to that, do you like to start with something saying, no, the dancing is beginning, or is it more slow song, or it kind of varies? Well, I mean, here, because of the nature of, you know, how weddings are done in the Midwest, I mean, we very, very typically, the first things that are going to happen after dinner, you're going to have the bride and groom's first dance. If they decide they're going to do a father-daughter, if they're going to do a mother-son song, those ones are going to come after the bride and groom have done this. Or say the bride and groom, the couple, you know, it's not just bride and grooms anymore. You know? So, you know, and, you know, we do a ton of those here as well. So, it's going to be the couple who are dancing first to open the floor. one of the things that I'll do when I sit down with my couples is I'll ask them, hey, is there a family special? Is there a traditional family song that you like to start the night with? And it's amazing how many times I hear that. We have people saying, oh my God, yeah, we always start with, Fame by Kids from Fame is Huge, or Irene Cara, or I did one last year where 500 Miles by the Proclaimers, and they weren't Scottish, they were Polish and Greek.
Yep.
So I don't know where that came from, but so I'll ask them, is there one of those? No. Okay, in that case, then we've got a couple of different options. I could just, I'll start, I want to get things kicked off. Do you want us to start with a slow one? Because they might have an opinion on it.
Right.
Me just saying what I want to do, I don't think is really being as tailored as they might want it to be. But the other one I do is the reverse generation dance. A lot of people will do we bring all the married couples on the floor, and then you take them all off one by one, and then you're left with a couple that's been married the longest, and then the bride and groom comes over to grandma and grandpa, and how did you do it? How did you make it to 65 years together? Blah blah blah. As a DJ, it's counterintuitive to me to take people off of a dance floor. So I do it the other way around. So I'll start with, and by the way, and I didn't invent this. I'm not in any way saying that I'm unique here. Yeah. There's a lot of DJs I know do it this way. I just personally feel that this is the best way of doing that particular type dance. I'll say, hey, anybody who's been married less than 4 hours. And of course, that's going to be the bride and groom. So almost immediately it's going to be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, so that we've got people on the floor. So that at the end of the song, the people who are least comfortable on their feet are dancing for the least amount of time. If grandma and grandpa are 80, you don't want them dancing for 8 minutes. They're maybe not capable of dancing for 8 minutes. And the thing is, by the time we get to the last couple, all of a sudden you've got a full dance floor. Then when you play something which is pretty universal, like an Uptown Funk or a Justin Timberlake, Can't Stop the Feeling, or We Are Family, or even something like a Jive Bunny, that kind of thing. So, and I didn't mean to quite screw my face up a Jive Bunny, but it's it's one that I have been playing for 25 years, and I could do without playing it much more. But there's those tracks which are very multi-generational. Motown tracks, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, or even things like Four Tops, Can't Help Myself, even things like September, Earth, Wind and Fire is one that I play a lot early on in the night, especially September weddings. And it's my birthday wedding, because my birthday is the 21st night of September. So I figured if they were nice enough to write a song about my birthday, I might as well play their song.
Yeah, right. Well, thanks so much, Alan. It's been a pleasure hearing about how you approach weddings and music in general, your thought process behind it, and how you think of your couples have their input about what they want. Thanks again, Alan. It was a pleasure. And I learned a lot just hearing you discuss the way you approach things. So that's always great, too.
I admit it. You're just working on your Scottish accent now, aren't you?
Yeah. It's a little sketchy. So, but
it's
a pleasure.
Just keep following Shrek. You'll be good.
So we'll see you next time on DJ Center Stage TV.
Thanks, Jim. Take care.